This is the Equinety Podcast. Hear the incredible Equinety stories and how Equinety is changing their horses' lives. Looking for ways to give your horse better focus, faster recovery, more stamina, or perhaps when all hope runs out, give your horse what it needs to help repair at a cellular level. The Equinety Podcast. It's all about the horse. Here's today's episode on how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Here's your host, John Dowdy.
Hello and welcome to this week's Equinety Podcast. We're swinging out into Iowa, where I understand the temperature swings can be quite drastic. This week we've got Cody Burkholder on the call, a pickup man, which I believe this is the first pickup man story we've got. So, Cody, welcome to the Equinety Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. And I think we first spoke end of December, 1st of January, maybe. I don't know. It was earlier this year, I think it was.
Yes.
Now, before we get into that, you're also the, which is a minor detail, but very important. You're president of the Iowa Rodeo and Roughstock Youth Rodeo Association. So tell us a little bit about that association, how long you've been involved, and all of those kind of details.
So basically, I mean, you know, youth rodeo is the future of rodeo. I mean, you've got, with all the declining numbers that we're having, you know, might as well get them, you know, interested young so that they can keep going as they get older. But I've been involved with it the last 3 years or so. It's, you know, really kind of cool to watch these kids grow and get better, you know, as they grow up. You know, I mean, just, you know, I've watched kids from the time they were in the juniors to winning the amateur rodeos that I'm picking up now, you know, and it's kind of watching them, you know, go out to Vegas to the youth world finals out there, you know, for the JRA and win world titles. You know, right now in our association, we have at least 4 world champions from Vegas. My son being one of them. He's the 2022 Pee Wee world champion.
Nice.
You know, and then we have, you know, 2 brothers that are saddle bronc riding world champions from out there, you know, and then we have an all around world champion that comes down and rides for us. So, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it's just cool watching these kids going from just starting out to really being monsters in the arena and, you know, showing everybody what they got.
Sure. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. So you're producing some good talent out of there.
Yeah. And, you know, it's crazy. You know, people really kind of dismiss Iowa when we talk about rodeo. You know, and here lately with, you know, Tim O'Connell and Trevor Reese and Wade Sundell and, you know, you get into like team roping with Vaughn On, you know, I mean, there's really a bunch of talent out here. And then you got the Smith cousins that are coming up. You know, you hear about them all the time, see them all over Facebook. And then Tegan ended up going to the NFR the one year, won around. You know, I mean, we do have the talent here, and it's kind of crazy. You know, I went in my very first college rodeo. I won the long round, and one guy leans over to my coach and he goes, "Where did you find him?" And he goes, "Iowa." And he goes, "They got cowboys in Iowa?" Well, yeah.
Yeah, they do. Well, you know what? I think too with the as the Cowboy Channel is really exposed a lot of talent around the country. It's pretty exciting having a format like that as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's really brought us up to the forefront. You know, it used to be you'd have to wait to watch it on ESPN 1 week a year to now you can watch it every night.
Right. So how long have you been pickup man?
So I started when I was 12. I probably had one of the best teachers out there. So my dad raised bucking horses, and we'd have circuit guys, you know, swing by and work on some things, work on their saddles, work on, their riding, fix things here and there, or just to get a confidence boost before they got back on the road again. And I was really all we had. So I worked by myself quite a bit. And then once I got into high school rodeo, my buddies came over. So we'd swap on, 1 minute, I'd ride one horse and then jump on the pickup horse for the next guy. And, I've been doing it for, ever since I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and rodeoed. And then, 2018, I had a pretty bad shoulder injury. And after that, I tried making a comeback, but then my boy started riding, and that was just, it was more fulfilling to watch him ride and take him to rodeos than it was to actually rodeo myself. So
Sure.
then as he got older and started getting in more wrecks, and
harder to recover.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get out there and make sure, that somebody's out there that can save him. Granted, the bullfighters did absolutely amazing, but it was just the quality of the pickup man that was out there. And it was like,
yeah, right.
I feel much better with me saving my son than watching some of these others.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, and I think too, from, going back into the association, now you have like an open as well. So, what's the, you got parents that are coming in also riding and doing things, cause you also have barrel racing involved in your association.
Yep. We got barrel racing, breakaway roping, goat tying. So, we have there's some mothers that bring their daughters to run, and then they have an open event where they can run too. So, it's not like they have to sacrifice, their competition for their kids.
Sure. Yeah. So
and
it's
then we have
family affair.
Yeah. And then we have an uncle that comes and comes and rides with his nephews. So it's kind of a cool deal, and that way we get, we can, we'll buck everything from walk trots all the way up through the open. So you get every size level, throughout the whole rodeo.
Yeah. Good sport and good entertainment, sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned this before about within the last 3 months, but what made you decide to start using Equinety on your pickup horses?
So, quite arguably, this is probably one of the toughest events on a horse. Granted, there's other, stuff out there, but you're asking this horse to get, to ram into the broncs, to, they're going to get kicked. They're going to get pushed around. Even when you're shagging bulls, there's a potential of getting hooked and hit. And it's very physically demanding, and you're asking them to perform at their highest level every time that gate cracks. Like, anything less is unacceptable, especially, for me, especially when there's kids involved. Once them kids enter the arena, they're my kids. Yeah. I will do whatever I can to make sure that they can walk out safely.
Right.
And my horse better be performing to the best of their ability, So I was noticing a lot that the second performance was not as good as the first performance. And I could never really pinpoint it. Maybe I need to ride them more during the week, or maybe I need to do this or do that. And then, watching the Cowboy Channel, I kept seeing the Equinety commercials come on, and I'm like, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. Like, you go to the gym, you take your pre-workout, you work out, you stretch, and then you take your aminos afterwards. And it's like, why aren't we doing that to our horses? Especially like my horses, they work all rodeo long, especially in this nasty Iowa heat. Like, they're saddled up for 4 hours. They're working, they're sweating. No wonder the second performance is never the best, because I'm feeding them good. They get all the water they need, but they don't have that supplement to take out the soreness, the stress.
Right.
So that was kind of the deciding factor there. And, I was coming into the winter, my winter rodeos. We got some pretty cool venues that we get to go into and have rodeos. And, you're taking an animal from single digits, 20 degrees, into a building that's 80. They've got their winter hair on, so it's like putting the part on and walking into a wrestling room and trying to do a workout. Like,
yeah. And I think too, from the outside looking in, especially, the people that are watching the rodeo, they're seeing the events are very quick, whatever discipline it is. And I don't think a lot of people pay attention so much to all the work that the pickup horses are having to do. And just like you explained, I mean, they're getting bumped around, kicked. It's a very, very physical thing. And so it would make sense. What you're saying is, man, if any horse needs it more than another way, it would be the pickup horses.
Right. I mean, and, like they say, if a pickup man does his job right, you'll never know he's out there. So, people probably dismiss that more than anything.
Yeah. You guys aren't getting scored.
Right.
on the live events, you might get scored for yourself, or the guy is like, get me off this thing. Where's my pickup guy? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So when did you actually start using the product?
So about the end of December, I bought my first canister, and they were on it from probably the very end of December. So it was my first winter rodeo was January 5th, and they were on it the week before that.
Okay. And how long did it take you to notice any changes?
Immediately. That weekend.
Oh, really? That quick?
Yeah, really. We went into that rodeo, and I really tend to have a lot of problems, with those indoor rodeos, because just going from the cold to the heat and then asking them to work. And with these rodeos, they're ranch broncs, barebacks, broncs, kids, and bull riding. And the one rodeo does have barrel racing. So basically in that 2.5 hour time frame, these horses are working probably about 2 hours of it. So there's really no, get to sit there and watch them rope calves or rope steers, or, it's okay. This is one bucking event to another bucking event to another bucking event. Like, they're working hard all night long. Yeah.
It's not a 4-second run or 10-second run or whatever.
Right.
You're going,
you're there
hours
until the job's done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
So, they really fired on all cylinders, and, I fed them the next morning with the Equinety. I fed them after that night, I think. And they they fired even better on the second performance. And that's usually when I notice I have more problems. No, they were firing harder the second night than they did the first.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. Well, for those that are tuning in, I'm going to just give you the why and the how of what this product is, and then it'll make sense as we get into your horses here and what specifically you saw. So the Equinety Horse Excel is 100% amino acids, and it's very specific to do a certain thing, and that is stimulate the pituitary gland, which is a gland in the body that releases hormones. So this allows the body to send its own hormones to its own problem areas. And so it's one of the reasons why we started the podcast several years ago, because there were so many stories coming in on pretty much anything you can imagine with a horse. This little tiny scoop helps, and as in this case, I mean, you notice a change in 1 week. What's really interesting is that the product actually starts working within hours. It stimulates the pituitary to release those hormones within hours. So typically we've seen demeanor changes in as little as 2 or 3 days, week to 2 weeks. They feel better under saddle. The recovery, stamina, focus is big. 2 weeks to 30 days, softer, shinier coat. They're filling out top line, hip area, and longer term use. The overall hoof quality is phenomenal. Soft tissue. We've had a lot of reports of less injections, gut health. I mean, all these things with this tiny little scoop. So based on all of that, let's talk about, so how many pickup horses do you typically take to an event?
I try to at least take 3, sometimes maybe a couple more, just to get young ones to chase calves out or steers or whatever, use them during the timed events and keep the good ones for the broncs and the barebacks and the bulls. And but yeah, I typically, especially these winter rodeos, I like to have a minimum or I like to have 3, just to be able to swap out and make sure they're all fresh or not getting overworked.
Mm-hmm. And so your main horse was kind of having like a stifle issue. Was that correct?
Yes. So, oh shoot, it's 2 years ago now. We bought him off my stepbrother. So when I first got him, I didn't have a horse. I had to sell my good one to pay for some things, and I didn't have a horse. So my stepbrother said, "Hey, take him and teach him something." And he caught on so fast, and he turned into a good horse really, really fast. It surprised me, but with the fact I really didn't have another horse that I could use for the bucking horse end of it, he got used, anywhere from 1 to 4 performances a weekend all summer long, and had 2 weekends off.
Wow.
Throughout the entire season. And it was really, I will take full blame on that one. Completely my fault. I should have been looking and, seeing if somebody would let me just take one and put some time on it or something to help him out. But he really started to have a stifle issue on the one leg. And it was getting to the point where I got other horses, and I could give him breaks and whatnot. And it was getting to the point where I'd get a few horses into the perf, and my fiance is like, "Hey, get him out of there. Like, he's not doing good." And we really didn't have an issue at that first rodeo. He worked the 6 bareback horses, and he went out, and I just used him for just the bareback horses in the at the January rodeo. We get to February, and I had a horse get hurt, and so I was down to 2, and he worked all the barebacks and all the kids, and that was at least 12 animals that he worked, and never noticed a problem.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
And we were kind of fearing having to start him on injections, and it's like, dang, he's too young to start injections already.
Right. Yeah, we've had a lot of stories through the years with injected horses. They are oftentimes able to cut those in half and sometimes skip a year. It all depends on what Mother Nature's doing, but it makes sense when you understand, what the product is doing by allowing the body to help repair itself at the cellular level. What you said, another horse got hurt. What happened with that one?
Crazy story. We're not exactly sure how it happened. I got a feeling it's because of the horse we were just talking about. He can kind of be a butthead sometimes, but the kids got off the bus, and right at the driveway, there's a field drive in the driveway to our house, and she was in the barbed wire to that field drive. And she was, the one leg was completely cut up. She had bled a lot. I FaceTimed the kids at work, and they got her cut out of it and got the horses all moved to the barn so they couldn't get out to that hole. really proud of them for what they did, especially getting off the bus from school, just doing that. And so then we started feeding her 2 scoops a day, 2 scoops of Equinety a day, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. And we bandaged her up for, every night for a week. And then this last week, she hasn't had a bandage on, and that wound is really closed up and really healed well, I thought, for being as bad as it was.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, too, that we hear over and over and over with injured horses, whatever the expected recovery time is, if they're using the product, they will come back ahead of schedule. And a lot of questions we get is one scoop versus 2 scoops. Now, a scoop is only the size of a teaspoon, so it's not very much because we're targeting the pituitary gland, which is about the size of a pea, roughly. But when you give a scoop in the morning, those hormones are released and have a 23.5-hour life cycle. So if you give a scoop in the morning, by the time you give a scoop tomorrow morning, the hormone levels are back to where they were when you started the day before, which is perfectly fine in most horses. But what we found with injured horses or ones that you're really working hard and on the road, if you give a scoop in the morning and a scoop in the evening, it's just keeping the hormone levels elevated. And so it really helps promote that faster recovery, which is, what you saw in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is she back going again, or is she still on the mend?
Yes. So she's still mending. It's the wound is still, it's healing over, scabbing over. But we've been able to ride her around the lot. She's, no soundness issues. We did take her on a trail ride the other day, and where, I live on a river valley, so there's a lot of ravines. And the one trail that we got, you go down it and then you got to climb it back up. And it's, part way up, she started having problems. So, we let her the rest of the way up. But, other than that, she's been an absolute trooper. So I think within, that week or 2 weeks, she's really recovered fast. And I've watched horses take all summer long to heal up, even with, doctoring them every day.
Sure.
And we're down to 2 weeks, and, here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty quick for sure.
Because I've ridden one horse. He got in some barbed wire and got into the hock, and that's a joint that moves, and it's moving all the time. But I've watched them doctor him for 2 years straight, and he's, and I'm not certain if he even is still recovered. Closed up, we'll say.
Right.
That's been an open wound for quite a while, and they, doctor him every day.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a great thing with this Equinety product is you're coming from the inside, at the cellular level. So kind of hits doctoring on the outside and getting it from the inside, and it's quite powerful that way. Is there any other horses that you've been using product on?
So I use it on all 5 of my horses right now. I use the oil and the powder. One horse I have, I got him from a buddy of mine. So he's over the winter, he kind of travels around Arizona, Oklahoma. He's went to school and really good friends with Wade Sundell. So he's down in Oklahoma with him a lot, and they ran across this place that had some horses, and the people were not able to feed them the way they should have. And he said, "Hey, let me take these horses home, and let me, one was still in good condition. The other one was in really, really bad condition." He goes, "Just let me take them home. I'll sell them for you. But let me get this one home, get him out on some pasture." He goes, "I got pasture that hasn't been touched." So he threw him out there for a little bit. And then, I really liked the look of the mare, but she was spoken for. So I'm like, "Hey, what's that gelding?" And he sent him over to me. I fed him up all summer. By the end of the summer, I got to put a few rides on him, but he's just, he's one of them that his body condition wasn't premium.
Right.
But once I started him on Equinety, he's shaped up. He's got a hip to him. He's got a nice top line. He's really bounced back, and he's a completely different horse from the first picture when I thought he was good until now. Like, he's really turned into a good looking dude.
Yeah. And I think too, one of the things that we always encourage people to do when they start the product is take pictures, on day 1 and 15 and day 30, if possible. Definitely day 1 and 30. When you're around your horse all the time, it's hard to notice a lot of the changes, but the pictures, we get pictures all the time, and they're just, sometimes they don't even look like the same horse.
So, right.
Yeah. But
for sure, I'm really, really curious to see how they're all going to shape up and look once we get this winter hair off of them.
Yeah, and I would say too, for those in the northern part of the country, even up in Canada, we found that the people that keep their horses on product year round, especially in the winter stages, the horses will tend to keep their weight on better, their hoof quality, and for the performance horse, they're back in shape sooner than they normally are. They just it really helps them with the recovery and overall body conformation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you had mentioned the oil. So we came out with the oil about 4 years ago, and with so many oils on the market, I was a bit reluctant to do that, but it made so much sense. And I think the important thing with an oil, you just have to make sure that you're using the right kind of oil. If you're dealing with vegetable, corn, or soy, it's, the horses look good on the outside, but it's high in omega-6s, which is causing a lot of inflammation. And so ours is a flaxseed-based omega-3, and it's got 1,000 IUs of natural cold-pressed vitamin E and colloidal silver all in one. So it's not that there's anything unique about the ingredients. It's just there's nothing on the market that has all 3 of them in one. And so it is a really powerful anti-inflammatory, but it's meant to be used in combination with the amino acids to give those repaired cells some nutrition. So, the people that are using both of the products are just having a really good product experience. And they find that they don't need to use a lot of other things, but that's for them to determine, because maybe their horse still needs some other things. But we found, just as a rock solid foundation, the Equinety Horse Excel amino acids and the Ultimate OEC is a really, really good combination. They just look good. They eat, drink, haul great, pretty much do everything you need them to do when you're on the road and need them to perform.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, before we jump off the podcast here, is there anything that you'd like to, other than what you've already talked about? Maybe somebody's listening in, maybe they're a little bit on the fence. They've seen the product, but haven't tried it, or, they thinking, well, maybe I should try it. Maybe, is there anything that you could tell them to maybe get off the fence to give it a try?
Hey, listen, it's your horse. If it wasn't for your horse, you wouldn't be in this rodeo business. The horse is the main staple for the entire rodeo business, aside from the bull riding. If your horse isn't worth an extra $1 a day, come on.
Well, that's a good point.
Literally, it's what it comes out to is $1 a day, and you're going to spend all of this, a bunch of money on your tack and a bunch of money on your bling and a bunch of money on this and that, and an extra $1 you don't want to give to your horse to, it gives you its heart and soul every time you enter that arena. Yeah. And you can't spend that extra $1 a day to help them out to be the best they can be.
Yeah, that is a very, very good point.
No-brainer.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Last year we changed our tagline to "It's all about the horse," because just as you said, why else are we doing this? Ultimately, those horses are putting their heart and soul, everything you're asking them to do, and to be able to give them a little bit of extra something to help with the recovery and just help them feel good is, really what it's about.
Right. And, we push them every day to be better and better and better. Well, the more you push them, the more their, we'll say wellness goes down. Well, why not give something to bring that back up to where they can meet your expectations every day because they feel good enough to do it?
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, Cody Burkholder, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and your stories, and thank you for all you're doing out there in the industry. So we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the product. I mean, it's really helped out with everything with my horses. I mean, I've noticed, like I've been kind of worried, like, man, do I need to go get a few more so that I can swap off every weekend?
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of really excited to, know that they're going to be able to handle everything every weekend.
Right. Yeah. No, those are excellent points. So, well, awesome. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Equinety Podcast. If you need information on purchasing Equinety, just visit our website at teamequinety.com. There you can get product information, plus testimonials on how others have seen amazing results by implementing Equinety into their horses' supplement program. Keep listening for a future episode of the Equinety Podcast, where we'll have more stories of how Equinety is helping horses worldwide. Equinety, it's all about the horse.